Computer. Lights.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. All right, so I learned a whole lot from Kat yesterday, and now I'm really enamored with the idea of how to build comics in a way that makes sort of sense and is logical. So, we're going to be working on that today because some of this stuff is fascinating to me. Um, but it also I had interesting ideas that Kat came up with that made me come up with a kind of a different thought process on how to do page layouts. So, in a way, I've been kind of thinking about now, wait a minute, how do we do these that makes it so that we can kind of think it through so that this can be my master document to tell me exactly what Kat was doing in an Excel spreadsheet. So Kat had this wonderful Excel spreadsheet, and I've been sitting here going, I can't do Excel spreadsheets. They just drive me crazy. So I've been looking at this and going, I know what to do. And that is to make the same thing we had before, but use up less space and make it much more functional. So before we start with so are you going to be working on? Yes, I will be working on illustrating Airship 27, but I also want you to do this. So we're going to do this. So what we've got here is the same grid we just made, but I made it smaller so it doesn't take up as much space. See, this grid up here takes up a lot of space. There's a whole lot going on here. But when Kat and I were talking, we were talking about panels and the layout of panels and how to do paneling and things like that. And it occurred to me that what really needs to happen here is I need to lay this out as a rough layout sort of thing, because once I know where my panels will lie on these things, I'll be able to do um, pages and scripting in a different way. And I feel like the script talks back to the layout. And in a way, I think this will make my life a lot easier on the other side. That's what we're doing. This is what we're doing today. I'm just gonna cut the grass here. Ka-chop. Make sure that it's all the same size. Right, kind of do the same thing down here and go. Ka-chop. All right. Now, knowing that all of these are already, I'm going to just put this, I'm going to do a white layer just so that I know what's going on down here, just so I can see, because we're going to do some stuff. We're going to do some work. All right. Okay, I've got my technical pen. I'm just going to put a dot. right here on this new layer. We're going to take a new layer right here. We're going to put a dot. Right? And then just so that they're uniform, I'm going to just duplicate that dot and put it right here. We'll put an R and L because this starts on right. Right? Right. It always picks like the weirdest colors. Like it picks the strangest setup and rig. I don't understand it half the time. So this is telling me that this is a right-hand page, R. And that's what that's after. And this would be a left hand. Thanks for being that helpful. There. All right. We're just going to take all of these guys and just merge them together. And that way I can just duplicate the heck out of this. Now this will only work for me. And I know that. But that's okay. I'm also noticing that we are further apart. And we'll duplicate it one more time. That's not the one that duplicated. That's the one that duplicated. The good news is we only need to worry about one set of these because this will start on the same pattern. So we'll go ahead and flatten these down. And then we can line them up. Actually, maybe I'll just line the whole lot of them up to the bottom of that. I did do the trimming. All right, so it'll take just a second or two and we'll do this. So what we are doing, if you're just joining me, is we are making, I'm a very, very visual person. And I saw Kat's work structure yesterday and thought, oh, I like that. I need to do something similar so that I can keep track of things in a story And I suddenly had this realization that for me, the story is going to be a bunch of scenes that I will write in my head or write out on paper, more importantly, write out on paper. And then we're going to assemble it onto here, onto the structure, so that it'll make more sense. And so in order to do that, I figured that this thing, which originally was a very useful tool, it came from Aloha Manga School, but it occurred to me that this would be an extremely useful tool if I could modify my the existing tool into making it so that I can track all of my work for a comic. Frankly, what I learned yesterday with Kat was somewhat mind blowing to me. There was a lot of stuff I did not know. I just didn't know, and it was fascinating to me. Um, so we're just doing this, going ahead and just kind of setting up a design here that allows me to decide or to kind of set up the pages, right? We're going to set up the pages here and we're going to clean it up so that I can use as much room as possible. And what I think I will ultimately have as a goal today is to have rough pages on here. So this will have each and every page of the manga spread out across the top half of this. So we're going to use the bottom half for that grid that we saw before from Aloha Manga School. I'm going to use the bottom here as that grid. Maybe we can make it a little larger, but I think what we will do is this. We'll move it over. We made it too big. And this way we can use pretty much as much of this room as we've got. Okay. All right. What I had said yesterday, and this is important for me, I need very much to start with a box that's very tiny to get an idea of roughly how I want the page to look. Because I really have a problem with, well, I mean, forest for trees, as our dear Brent will alert you, right? So we have two halves of this comic, each one being 16 pages. So I'm going to go on ahead and go in here and we're just going to break it down. Everything will be done in chapters of 16 for the comic. That's the nature of things. So we're going to do that. But the next thing, because this is the old version, we're going to take, here's the actual manga storyboards that we're coming up with, right? And we're going to have to adjust those today too, because they were wrong. or for why they were wrong. I'd hate to have to sit there and just tinker with it until it comes out right. I don't understand what we did wrong. We'll have to figure it out. So there is that. So this is our setup here for this guy. We're going to do numbers here. I'm actually going to take this right here, and we're going to go for a very light blue. Right, we're going to go for a new layer. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take every other 5, and we're going to not do that. Make a rectangle for every other 5. There we go. We can take this and we'll duplicate it. We'll move him over. Why are they not the same size? Why is nothing the same size? 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5th. It's because it's this. What are we doing wrong? I know what we're doing wrong. They need to cover both sides. So we need to take this guy here, and we need to say transform free transform, because we need to go to halfway. Like that. That's why things weren't going right. Okay, we'll duplicate the layer. We should get the same critter here. There we go. Maybe? I don't know. Maybe it feels more like we should do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With the splash being a splash. Maybe. Maybe I should do it this way. The splash page doesn't count in our counting thing, so technically the second half is always going to be just one page shorter than the first half. Except there'll be a splash in the first half too, so. Or at least in theory there would be. Right? Right. These things are hurting my brain, man. If this is supposed to be just fives in general, let's just make them fives in general and then just deal with the fact that it's weird. Yeah, that's probably our better bet. Just leave it like that and just go. Okay. Because what we're going to do next is this. I'm going to take this and I'm going to hit Control Shift S. And I'm just going to steal the image of a page. Okay. I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to go paste way up here in the corner, very small. Maybe I shouldn't steal its image. Maybe I should steal my own image because I have my own image. So let's do that. Open. Right. Okay. So instead of we'll steal this. Huge. Huge. But it'll match. Yeah. Okay, fine. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right. I really want them to line up. Well, why do they have to be this way? Actually, of all the ways that why don't we just rotate this guy? And make him here. Right? Now we can take on this layer and go new raster layer. And I'm just thinking outside the box here. Grab that. And we grab a smaller pinpoint. And it's 5. We go to line. We say 1 right here. Say 2 is right here. 3 is here. And 4 here. And 5 is here. There we go. We will then duplicate this layer and put it right here. And brilliantly, what are you going to do about the last 2 pages? Because they need to be on there somewhere. 30 minutes in, there's not a lot of people here. It's all right. And then this gives us room to have any extra pages after this is all over. So if we wanted to add like graphic pages or design pages or anything like that, I've got the ability to do so, which I think is kind of cool. It works for me. Okay. So I'm going to take and turn that off. That's already off. I'm going to squish all this down. With the exception of one thing I want to do here, and that's you. Because this is actual. I don't know why I'm doing this with this. I should be doing this with my stylus. What I will do is grab this and take you. We're just going to do this. Indicate this is our splash. There we go. And give it sort of a little bit of a nudge that it's not the same critter. There we go. I don't want to take up too much room because I want to leave myself room to do notes if I need to identify that spots have things and stuff, but I do want to indicate that that's a splash. The middle of the story, it's a splash. Because that's a different, this is going to be on the second part of the book. All right, we're getting there. Now we're going to start working on stuff. Here we go with labeling, right? So let's go ahead and flatten all this down. Background back in. All right. Okay, we're going to just put in 5. We actually can make this a little larger because we're okay in this space. Page 5. This is one of those mornings where I'm wondering if I'm even broadcasting. I assume that I will get Brian here in a little bit. That'll be cool. Let's see what kind of trouble Brian's into. There we go. There we go. All right. Turn that off. The only problem I have is I feel kind of like the 17 is hard to see. So I'm going to go on here and I'm just going to cut that back so that makes sense. Okay. We're going to put a pretty hefty black line here to indicate this is the end of the normal book. Right here. And then if I need to go further, I can. I've got pages to open up on the end. If I really want to, I can. There we go. Now all the pages have a page rig, if you will, which allows us to see quite a bit more of what's going on. And take these out. And this gives us the ability to do up to a 35-page comic if we really need to. All right. So you may be wondering, what are we doing next? We're doing this. There. And the question really is, did I want to do this yet? I don't think so. Hang on. Let's do the graphing that sort of talks about what we were, the original graph that's here. We're going to take this graph and I'm going to copy it. I'm in the wrong layer. Copy and paste. And I've lost everybody on this one. Everybody's like, what are you doing, guy? Nobody knows. Nobody really knows. But after yesterday's show, everybody's like, oh man, that was really cool. This one's not so cool. It's all right. Everybody's got to do the things, whatever the things are. Sometimes we just got to do the things. Okay, so we're going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to mimic sort of this wave. We're going to do it here on this graph. Right, so we're going to kind of try to follow this graph a little bit on here. We're going to give ourselves a new layer. Okay. And deselect. Now, what we're kind of trying to mimic is this same curve, because he's talking about the curve that the guy in Aloha Anime or Aloha Manga School is talking about, is this curve of which kind of hits a peak right off the bat in 5 or 6. So when we were talking to Kat, she was saying 3 to 4 panels is normal. So our normal line is right here in the middle. Right, this is our normal world line. We're going to put it right. Actually, we're going to just call it an entire blue line like this. Right, this is normal. So anything in this blue line is what we call normal, right? Anything moving down from here is going to be stressy. Nope, that's not what we want. We want it to go the other direction. So this is stressy. Okay, so we're moving upwards, getting more stressful. like that. So it moves to the more stressful as we get higher up. And it actually probably does the same thing going the other direction, right? Going the other direction, we also have sort of that same thing. So I've been doing kind of the, like so, and this. Either way, we're going to try to keep normal scenes here in the blue. See, now that I've done this, I can actually like bring it down in color and make it not quite so bright, right? So that we don't have to, it still makes its point, but it doesn't have to be kill your, burn your eyes out sort of stuff. A very colorful thing that I have invented here. It's very colorful. All right. We're just going to go on ahead and draw the points in. Right? So the original design, he was saying that we start in the normal right here. So we're going to put a point in right here. He's saying that we move up to a high point in the story by about here. So I'm going to put this here and say kind of like this. Right? Then we move back down to the normal again. Pretty dramatically too, because we're back to normal here. Like so. Through this point in the story. Then we're back up. And we're going to hit more stress points to here as we come into the splash, which always will be there because it's one picture. So this guy has got to be, we're going to kind of decide where he lands. I feel like he'll land here, right? And then we'll come out of this in high stress mode. And we can start coming down to a lower stress point. But what we're saying at this point here is that we're hitting the lowest point in the story right about here. So either here or there, we'll come back up to right there. Man, what is it with me in these middle points here? It's like I got to decide where they've got to land-ish. We'll actually hit the highest page count here or highest frame count there. So if we're going to do anything, it's going to be there. And I actually will try to get us back into normal before we head out. Right, so here is normal page count or normal count. All right. does not count because this is a splash. Recommended travel, which may or may not be your actual mileage may vary. There. So this is the recommended pattern that I follow. Right, with rises and falls in the story. That makes some sense. All right. Now that we've done this, I'm going to go ahead and merge all of these guys together. Then we're going to rotate. Because now we can actually take this guy and dump him, and this guy and dump him. Okay, we've added panels. One panel. Now, like I said, this is a guide, not hard and fast, but it should give me a little bit more of an idea of what I'm trying to accomplish, and I'll feel less like I'm out of control on this one. One of the things that I often have a problem with is I feel somewhat out of control when I do these things. Like I don't know what I'm doing as a rough. What was it that Alex said yesterday? My buddy Alex. He said you have to know the rules in order to break them. I think that's a great statement. You know what I mean? You have to know the rules in order to break them. I feel like that's exactly what we're doing here. We are setting up the rules in order to break them. I can do anything I want as long as I know what my baseline is. And this is giving me a little bit of restriction so that I don't think I'll ever break past 7 panels. And if I do, it will be definitely a big deal. There we go. Now we've set up a rough concept and idea that allows us to deal with setting up the pages any way we want. And I can at least now have sort of a concept and an idea, excuse me, about what I'm trying to do. I like this a whole lot. I think I have literally lost every viewer doing this. Yep, there isn't a soul out there. Wild. Is that I came in here to cause trouble and then I galloped out of here so you wouldn't notice me? Says George. Literally lost every viewer. That's awesome. All right. Episode. Issue. I should just make it shorter. All right. Legitimately, I think the first page should be a splash. That way there's balance and it's not obviously. Okay. There we go. All right, so here's what we've got so far. This is literally the layout of every page, right? So we've got literally every page here. There's two splashes. These are the green ones, right? And then 5, 10, 15, 16, 17. This is page 17. So we get 16 to the first unit, and then we get 16 to the second unit. And then that gives us the... Everything blinked. All right, cool. I'm going to save. Maybe I will save this as 2 so that I will remember what I was doing there. Right. I feel like a couple of things, like I feel like I should come down here and just mark something, give something to give just sort of an idea. This is a different thing. So maybe I will do that and that and that and that. And that way I know that this is extra stuff. It doesn't belong to the book. I can add it to this if I need to. I don't have to, or I can. All right, let's take a break and stand up because we've been working for an hour. We should always stand up every hour and take a break. And stretch, shake out our hands and everything. There we go. All my lights have been kind of squirrely recently. Noticing that they're not settling in correctly. The light colors are not correct. Things like that. So it's kind of interesting. All right. Let's put this a little to the test. So we're going to have to fix this too, this other problem we've got. We'll come back to this guy in a bit. But we have a definite problem with this not being straight for these guys, right? We've got to figure out why the pages don't match. And it's probably has something to do with our math. Train. We're in page manager. Okay. Change basic page settings. Oh, I feel like we may have done something weird here. Like it added I get it. Because what we really need to do is set this one for 279 and 431. Right? And that's how we'll set this right off the bat. Okay. I set the cropped border. Right? So we'll do 250 and 400 for just right now. And we'll get there. Right? And we'll fix this. It'll have to go through and repopulate the pages. But I know what we did wrong there. Okay, so now we'll be able to go over here and we need to measure how far across is our page from here to here. Because this inner cut is the actual page. Right? if we copy that to new, I don't know. How do we measure this? I think what we need to do is crop it to this. And then we can see what it says. Image resolution. So let's get another pen and paper. Here we go. Here's how we suss this all out. Okay, so first things first, 5751 puts it at 9.5 inches. 9.6. Well, let's go ahead and just do this the way it is. 585 inches. 91, 38 divided by 600 is 15.23 inches. Folks, this is maddening. Right. 9.585 equals 243.45 millimeters. And 15.23 equals 386.84 millimeters. And this is page. All right. Now we'll come back over here. And we will do this. Undo. Undo. And then we will do the actual size. I'm going to deselect. Well, nope. Crop. The actual page will line up here. Here. Bing. May plausibly be something. I don't know. Hang on, I'll come check in a sec. Here. Which that makes that. All right. So this becomes actual safe is the width is 4457 pixels and the height is 6742, which makes it, we'll do the math, This time I'm not going to actually chop it down either. Look at me. So we will do the math real quick on this one. 4457 divided by 600 dpi equals 7.428 inches. And 6742 divided by 600 equals 11.23. Really? 6 inches. I guess that's from the 17 side. Okay. Makes sense. Okay, so we will take this and we will say 7.428. And that becomes 188.67 millimeters. And 11.236 becomes 285.394 millimeters. Now, why are we going through all of this? This is an awful lot of gyrations. And the reason is because we're going to set a standard here. When we get to this, set basic page settings, right? So the canvas needs to be all the way up to 260 by 410. We'll put a safety margin. What is a safety margin? So my inside safety margin is going to be okay. So hang on real quick. I gotta. Okay, safety margin. So we're setting up the page to be what? We got like 27 different lines here. I think we need to start in a different layer. So let's start in a different layer. We're going to cancel this. We're going to go in basic work settings, right? Because this is the basic work settings that we've got. Because the finish size of the page is actually 243.45 and 386.84, right? Let's see how that changes things. It's like random. Right? Okay, let me set those settings. Let's go back in here and take a look. Now that we've set the work settings, let's set the page settings. Because now we know canvas width is the one that's too what? Yeah. Huh. What are you again? Image resolution 6600 by 1020. And as I recall, this becomes 11 by 17 straight. Right. And that makes this pretty straightforward. All right. Okay. Back to where we were. We're doing a lot of experimenting today. Today is a lot of experimenting. So basic page settings then. Our canvas width is 279.4 by 431.8. Right? And then the inside is so weird. Okay. Binding finish size becomes 243.45 by 386.84. And the inner size is 188.67. And its height becomes 285.394. And let's see if that fixes it. I spend a lot of time doing math. A lot more time doing math than I want to do. Right? Who knows? That's fine. Don't worry. I still love you. There we go. That was my beloved wife who said, I just screwed everything up for dinner tonight. Why don't we just do pizza? Okay. Works for me. All right. If we were to go in here and look at this as a unit now, let's see what happens if, hey, can I have the other thingy? There we go. You. What if I take you, all copy, and paste you in? What happens now? Why are we still off? I thought we had this. I was pretty sure we had this. And it doesn't match any of these lines. Huh. What do you think, guys? What's going on? Why are we not getting what we're supposed to be getting here? It's like we're off by something. Biggest problem I've got is that I can't do any of this building in pixels. It's all got to be in millimeters, which makes everything so confused and weird and stuff. Maybe we're going about this wrong. Because maybe what we really need to do is build these master plates in the actual rig. Because so here's the thing. Here's why I'm having a problem with this. In order to use these cool manga setup frames that are already pre-loaded and everything like that, they are rigged to a certain size, right? So if I want to use these existing frames, which is extremely useful, very easy to do, and you can see I can just rig up pages instantly and not have to even worry about it. The gutters are all set, everything's all rigged, all of this works just fine. If I want to do this, then this background sheet has to match the foreground sheet. Otherwise, the drawings that I make aren't going to match, right? And so we can't do this really nifty instant make frames thing. We're going to have to build every page from scratch with frames. And so I don't want to do that. I got better things to do with my life. So in order for us to save time down the road, we're going to have to spend a little extra time here, but that's probably not a bad deal because once we set this, it's set. It never has to change ever again. And the cool part is I'm noticing that it's conforming to whatever I say to conform to. So let's go from a different point of view. Let's do a different tactic here. Let's look at standard manga page size MM. Right? We went through this already once. It does say if I'm publishing or printing myself, I can do whatever I want. That's fine, but we've got better things to do with our lives. So, there we go. So we're looking at Reddit right now, and they have done a ton of analyzing here on the sizes of manga. European dimensions, and stuff like that, talking about manga sizes. Right? So, Kodansha releases 7.5 inches by 5 inches. I don't know if I want to do that. I think what I really want to do is measure straight up what we've got existing here. And we've done this before when we've had this same problem. We've taken my beloved, and this is a very beloved, my beloved Macross here. Beloved Macross. Okay, now we're going to measure the pages, but I need to find a page where my goofy best bud here doesn't actually break out of his boundaries, because he breaks out all the time. Every page is different, and so it's very hard for me to come up with a uniform internal boundary. So I'm looking through here to find a uniform internal boundary, because he breaks out of his safe all the time. So maybe early on? No. Really not seeing early on. He's perpetually inside his safe. Well, probably as good as we're going to get. I'll hold that page and see. There's a lot going on in this manga. And it gives us 3 of the corners. So he doesn't do a single page where he's not outside of his zones. There isn't a single page where he's outside of it, or where he's inside all 3 zones. It was better in Macross 7 Trash, but he is now an established mangaka and nobody questions him. So here's the page we're going to use. And I'm going to mark it with a... All right. We're going to take our centimeter ruler. We're going to measure it. We've done this before. The pages are 180 millimeters high. Wait. We've done this measuring before. There are 125 wide. Okay. The internal safe is going to be... Oh, man, I can't get the ruler in here tight. They put a rounded edge so that you can hang it on things, but unfortunately that's on the side that I need. So the internal is, the width is 20 to 35. 20 to 35. That makes it 1,550. And the height I can actually use this side. Is 160. Okay, so this is our safe. And what we're going to do is we're going to set this for 600 DPI as a printing size. When I did these original internal pages, this is exactly what I did. So I went on ahead and measured in on this, and I just wanted to make sure, I mean, really legitimately, we were doing good on this. And so I mean, accurately, I'm trying to think of how to do all of these so that they all work. I don't know, I'm having issues. So, okay. So we've got 150 by 160. That doesn't seem right. Let's check some other pages. Because I feel like that's... Page 180 millimeters. Okay. Well, so part of the problem is everything is weird here. I mean, like, part of this is that all the manga is different. Every manga is different. And that's part of where our issue is. If you were to look even at the stuff that I've got over here, just the standard stuff that I've got up on my board over here, all of them are different. Every size is different. Each and every manga is completely different. This Negima is a different size completely than this Macross. And the only reason I'm stressing about this is I want a baseline that I can follow consistently so that whenever I do all of my art, it all is the same. It never changes. And I'm not talking about the art itself. I'm talking about the structure and the framework around it. I don't want it to change, right? I don't want it to get weird on me. And all of it is based solely on the structure of things. I'm looking at more pages here to see if I can find any that fits inside the box. He's really not into boxes. He's very much not into putting things in the boxes. Yeah, that is close. Except for this one leading page or leading square, we've got a good width count here. So same thing, his width is still fixed. That works. All right, so we'll look over here. 160. He actually is doing like 150 freaking 8. 158. Weird. It was 158 before too. Which means it's very close to being square. Which I don't know if I like, which makes me question things like, where's the top and the bottom? It makes me question things like, where's the top and the bottom? Oh, Mikimoto, I love you so much, but this is so extraordinarily frustrating. 158. Right? But this just makes me question my life choices. It cannot be square. It doesn't make any sense. Right. Because it's not, it's 105. Not 150. 105. There we go. 105 by 158. There we go. So, $10mm margin is 12 millimeter. Okay, so you want a 10mm gutter is what we're looking at. Right? Are we even remotely correct on this one? I just should cut this book up, and I just don't want to because I'm afraid I will lose. Yeah, it's a 10mm gutter. So whatever it is, the gutter around it is 10mm. So that's what we're talking about. So the width is 125 and the width is 105. 10mm gutter. Okay. Okay, so let's go over here and talk a little bit about this. We're going to do not save. Go back to you, and we're going to go back to the work settings. And it's finish size will be 5 millimeters over our page size. Right? So if the page is 180 by 125, we want bleed to be 5 over that. So 185, 190, 190. Its height being 135. No, we did this wrong. 135. 190. Okay, see, that didn't work right. So what are we looking for here? So if we say B4, I just feel like I mean, because the numbers that are coming up here and the thing right here, it doesn't match. Like what it says and what it's up to. Um, Hang on a quick. More. Okay. Now, let's see here. Alex looks like he's busy. What if we show all comic settings? So I want the canvas to be bigger than, man, this is hard. I want my canvas to be bigger than, man, could use some assistance on this one, but hey, it's all good. Like this would be a good time to have Kat on here to ask her legitimately those questions that I'm asking, like I'm asking myself now, which is what's canvas size versus your binding finish size and your default inner border size, right? My canvas size should be larger on the outside by a certain amount. But how much is that amount, right? So let's look at this. We've got this base manga thing that we're working on here because this is this outer border, right? So let's say change canvas size. We're just going to talk about just this border right here, right? Its width is 425, so that's 17. So we're going to go for 20. I've got a 20 millimeter outer border, which works. So, and then when we talk about like canvas, it should be plus 20 millimeters on all sides. Yes, no, maybe so. Except at the bottom, where we have this extra zone designed for the benefit of because this extra zone on the bottom is an extra gutter piece for, and how do we offset it? Do I just call it an extra long safe on the bottom? Because page safes, it talks about this over here on the other side. We talk about this page safe. Let's real quickly do a check on the bottom. Right, because if we come down to, let's say here, we have an extra it's an extra 46 millimeters, extra 46 millimeters on the bottom. Yes? Well, I mean, you could always just do this number and it would be fine, right? Because it would be 43. Off the bottom of the page, it's an extra 45 millimeters. So this becomes the webtoons is an extra 45. The reason this is so complicated the reason this is so complicated is because webtoons will always be in pixels because it's on screen, but print is in millimeters and in DPI. And when you deal with what a resolution is for webtoons, we're going to have only a certain X number of pixels that we'll be able to use for it. And it's at 72 DPI, which is really low, but that's what screen resolution is. So when we deal with things like having to mess with the canvas size being that this canvas needs to cover something that's going to be ultimately at longer than it is wide. We're going to have something that's this big at 600 DPI, so it's going to be huge. Then we're going to have something that's this big that's at 72 DPI and small. And we need to have a canvas that can hold both of those structures. So we've got to have this guy decided out. So this is going to be the one that we're going to have a page that's 180 millimeters by 125 millimeters. That's this page, right? With a 10 millimeter gutter around it that gives us that brings the inner page to 105 by 158. Okay. But now we have to think about how we're going to have it when it's in its long webtoons format. Well, we know that that's going to be 1200 pixels by 480 pixels. And that's a different measurement. So now we're talking, how do we figure this all out? Almost tempted to say how many pixels per millimeter is what we've got to deal with here. Because maybe that's the mathematical conversion we need to come up with. Because then we can just go back and forth between. All right. How many pixels? How many can I do pixels to millimeters? Yeah, actually. 100 DPI. Oh, hey, look, it's a pixel calculator. How very useful. Right? Let's take a look at the pixel calculator. Let's talk about our pixel calculator here. Yay. Okay. Wow. This gives us like all kinds of crap. Okay. So we do millimeter to pixel. Right. We'll start with 600 dpi. Okay. Good. So it looks like it's 24 pixels to a millimeter at 24 dpi or at 600 dpi. Okay. Doing all kinds of crap here. It's 3 pixels to a millimeter at 72 dpi. This is giving us stuff we can work with. Look at us. Look at us figuring this out. Okay. So we know we have 3 pixels equals 1 millimeter at 72 dpi. All right. At 600 dpi, we get 24. 24 pixels equals 1 millimeter at 600 dpi. Here's our core conversion. Each millimeter, so now we've talked about this here. If we look at it for screen resolution, we're looking at 3 pixels per millimeter. So if you have something that is going to be 125 millimeters wide, right, which is what we've got going on here, we multiply that by 3 and we end up with how many pixels across the screen we need to be at 72 dpi, which is screen resolution. Webtoons default. Webtoons resolution. Webtoons, and I'll put this in a different place. Webtoons wants 800 by 1280. All right. Whew. And there's no safes in Webtoons. Good morning, Pat. Sugar cookies. You have to send me some. I want sugar cookies. Dang it. I want sugar cookies. Pat, you are what? Okay, so this is fascinating. I've had 0 viewers the entire show. We're down to the last 6 minutes of the show, and I've got 3 viewers. That cracks me up. I mean, it's cool. Totally cool, guys. We are working. We're doing math, is what we're doing, and it's mind bending. No, you don't share. Didn't you learn that in kindergarten? Come on. Or are you going to say that, like, Dad, you didn't go to kindergarten? That was Dad's excuse. Was Dad's like, I didn't learn it in kindergarten. I didn't go to kindergarten, so I don't have to share. I don't have to share. I didn't go to kindergarten. So you didn't go to kindergarten either, so you don't have to share. See, same excuse as Dad. If you didn't go to kindergarten, you don't have to share. Because that's something we learn in kindergarten. So you're safe. You're absolved. There you go. Little did you know. Okay. Now let's think about the numbers that I just made in my head that now make my head hurt. So, okay. If we're talking, we're going to have to set everything. You're welcome. We're going to have to set everything properly here. If we're talking about 800 pixels, this is probably part of our problem, is that we're going to have to come up with a compromise between these two. 800 pixels divided by 3 makes it 260 millimeters. 266 millimeters to be exact. Which is twice up the resolution that we want for our page. This is one of those, there is a math formula out there somewhere, and it's the one I never get, which is if X is like 800 and I need it to be 322, what's the number for it? How do I get that mathematical process? And this is always one where I just start breaking down in my head. We know that 1 millimeter equals 3 pixels at 72 dpi. The Webtoons comic page is 800 pixels wide. The answer that we're looking for is how many millimeters at 600 dpi are we going to put into... Oh, I think that's what I need to do. So, okay. We'll clear. So we now know that the page is 180 millimeters wide. Print times 24, right? That's going to make it 4320. And we probably are going to have to do everything in multiples of 24. And that's the way to do it. Okay. I am hurting my brain trying to figure this one out. Okay, so the final resolution of the page is 180 millimeters wide, which is 4320 pixels, because it's at 600 dpi. That puts me, yeah, I know, I won't get any help from you. And it's all right. I'm okay with that. And if we take 125 millimeters. That's the height. Damn it. 125 times 24 equals 3,000. So the height is 4320. The width is 125 millimeters, which is 3,000 pixels straight. So now we know that our width is going to be 3,000 pixels. So that's good because my walking buddy just said he's trapped at work. So since he's trapped at work, I'm not walking. So I'm just going to keep pounding on this until I figure it out. Because now we need to take 3,000 and get it to 800. 3,000 divided by 800 is 3.75. So to get to webtoons, we multiply no, we don't. Well, get from webtoons. So we're going to need to divide. Divide 3.75. You missed algebra in kindergarten. Yeah. You sound like your nephew or your great nephew, whatever you want to call that, who was trying to do algebra in kindergarten. Broken child. Divide 3.75. So let's just double check this. We got 3,000 and we divide it by 3.75 and we get 800 square. Okay, good. That means we know the height of the page that we need to be at is going to be 1280. So we times that by 3.75 and we get 4,800 pixels. Whew. Okay. So the Webtoons page, the height is 4,800 pixels and its width will be 3,000 pixels. Okay, good. This is helping. We're getting there. So if we take 4,800 and we subtract 4,320, which is 180 millimeters, we get 480 is the difference. Okay. Over by 480 pixels, or 480 divided by 24, 20 millimeters square. I know, right? I would have just totally called Gia. I should have just called Gia. 20 millimeters. So, whew, at 600 DPI, print resolution. I'm going to have to wait. At print resolution. So if you're printing, if we were to take a Webtoons page, which is longer than it is wide, and print it at 600 DPI, it would be 20 millimeters longer than high, which means that I actually did this page wrong. Looking at this page right here, it says, because I said that it was 43 millimeters higher when measured, which means that I would never have gotten it right printing it out. Whew. Okay, that was a miserable mess. So it's going to be 30 millimeters to the bottom, 10 millimeters to each side, and 10 millimeters to the top for the safe. Now we know. Man, that was rough. Okay, I'll catch the voicemail in a second. I don't know who that is. They're kindly waiting for me to get out of my show, but this was a big deal. This is a big deal. Now, what I need for my canvas size is an extra 20 millimeter or 20 pixels on either side, so I can put these color codes. So these color codes help me color the comic when we are done on the side over here, because my comics are always in black and white. And the cool thing is that we have this tone button, which when you click it turns everything into a zipatone and makes it the correct tone for everything. So they're gray here, but they turn into tones whenever I hit the button, which is an awesome, awesome effect. And I love that because it's a one button push to get everything properly zipatoned. And I don't have to fight with it. So I want these on the side of my final thing. And what Kat was saying yesterday is anything that's on the canvas will get cut when it goes out for the canvas. So I don't need these helper pieces to be printed, obviously. So it will cut those at the right spot if I set that setting correctly. So that's where we're at. Okay. So the Webtoons is over by 20 millimeters on the bottom. We've got 10 millimeters on either side, 10 millimeters at the top. That is so straight and clean that I suspect what really happened was the Webtoons guys were building things off of a manga page and just set it up and rigged it properly and then said, well, we'll make it longer. And then they just picked the number 20 millimeters longer. That's my guess. That is so clean. It's not like 31.73 millimeters longer. It is exactly 20 millimeters, which means that I think Webtoons set up their original stuff as that. So, okay, taking what we just learned. We've got this, we've got this. Inside safe is going to be static. So my question really is, man, we don't have a cover. We're going to turn on safety margins here. And we're going to put 30 millimeters there. And then the inside is 10. The outside is 10. And the top is 10. Right? So we'll get safety margins that are extended longer to the bottom. The inner border is going to be 105 by 158. Our inner. And our page will be 180. Nope, it'll be 180 high. 180 high. And 125 wide. That's starting to look more like what we're looking for. For the width of the actual canvas itself, see you later. I'll probably just call it in a second here once we set this. We want it to be 20 on either side past where we've got it. So the canvas needs to be canvas. I wish I could offset. Oh, I can offset it, can't I? Y offset 20. Other direction. Minus 20. Stop being goofy. So if we were to say that, we could actually do height as 180 is 200. There we go. Okay. Oh my goodness. I think we're actually kind of getting there. Bleed width is 5 millimeters. That works. This is okay. So those of you who do mixed media, where you're mixing webtoons and print, this is your show. 180 is the width of the page. I need to do 20 on either side, so that's plus 40, right? That's 220 on the height. 220 on the height, except that it's not. It's 240. Okay, and the width is fixed. So 125 plus 20 plus 20. This makes it 165, yes? That's starting to look like the page we're looking for. Right, the binding size then is 125 by 200. My safety margin should be in the... I don't need a safety margin at this point because that's actually what we're looking for right there. Because this is what we're actually looking for. Look at that. I think we may have actually legitimately generated this. We may have actually done it correctly. I'm kind of shocked, but I think we may have done it. Let's take a look. Let it readjust. It's going through and it's just readjusting all the pages so they're the correct size. Okay. Wonder why page 1 doesn't do what these guys are doing. Let's double check it. Copy. Right. And see what we get. Paste. It's oversized. That makes sense. If we were to bring it down to here, and no, it doesn't match. But legitimately, guys, I think I may have been off on all of my designs anyway. I think this is more accurate because we did the math on it. And that's what I actually am more comfortable with. I think we did the math. Right? Because if we look at it this way, we did the math. And these will start to line up roughly correctly, right? Here to here to here. We did the math. So I'm starting to think that I need to set my pages to this and not set my pages to the other things, because I think this is more accurate. Which I think is what we really needed to do to begin with. So, okay. Well, I feel like I have solved the crime spree for today with math. I solved it with math, people. Solved it with math. So there you go. We've fixed our sort of weird layout problems that we started with yesterday. The cat had started discovered and said, "Whoa, I've never heard of anybody trying that before. This sounds really risky. Hey, good luck on that," you know. And so here we are with this, kind of doing this one and saying, okay, well, here's our zones. So let's figure it out. But I think we've gotten it, and I think we're done, and I think we got this figured out and squared away. What I'm going to do in the meantime is build a new master page that's built for working inside these ranges, because I feel like this is what we're after ultimately. So, okay, that's it. We're out. That was an extra 18 minutes of struggling with math. Man, but it's all right. I got Pat here, and I had Pat for a minute, but then he had to go take a nap because he's old. I only said it with love. Love you, Pat. Okay, I'm out of here. See you all tomorrow for Artist Check-In. And as always, remember to keep your eyes on the stars. Goodbye.
Computer, good night.